thanks to all of you for sharing. Beautiful. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our featured author this evening, and it is our dear friend Melissa Whiteford St. Founder of White Girl Advocacy, LLC, Melissa Whiteford St. is a poet and social justice advocate. She shares her message of unity and creativity through interactive workshops, poetry readings, and community events. Melissa has published 2 books of poetry and a self-guided workbook. She is a 3-time contributing poet to the South Carolina Bards Poetry Anthology and Finding Common Ground, Leaning In to Listen. Her poem, Harriet's Feet to Freedom, was featured on the Hilton Head Island Poetry Trail at Mitchellville. She was honored to be part of the Piccolo Spoleto Sundown Poetry Series in 2025. She was named to the Rise and Shine, What America Means to Me state winner by the South Carolina Society of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution with the entry of a photo and accompanying poem. Most recently, her poem, There's No Bull in Back Issues of Bon Appetit, was published by the Pettigrew Review. Beyond writing poetry, Melissa is an entrepreneur and owner of Paper Chaser Biz, LLC, where she helps busy entrepreneurs free their time by providing professional virtual assistant services. She has an affinity for bees, yoga, and corset. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Good evening. It's so good to see everyone. Do I have any Harriet Tubman fans here tonight? Show of hands. Okay, who is Harriet Tubman's biggest fan? Show of hands. Okay, we're gonna arm wrestle for that. Well, I would like to thank Ginger Olszewski and the Pat Conroy Literary Center for making this program possible. I recently released my newest book of poetry, Origins and Crossroads, Poems Traversing Time with the Intrepid Harriet Tubman, during April, National Poetry Month. So I would like to recognize my publisher, Rebecca A. Outlaw, and also Dr. Lynn Maureen Hurdle Price, who wrote the foreword for the book. And just the blurb about the book, Origins and Crossroads, traces the enduring legacy of Harriet Tubman alongside moments where history and a poet's personal journey intersect. Through poetry rooted in courage, faith, and freedom, the past speaks powerfully into the present. So the book is comprised of 4 sections: Origins, Crossroads, Underground Railroad, and Starshine. And each section has a related historical introductory section. So along my journey, I had a strong call to social justice, which led to poetry, which was a godsend. It came to me as a processing mechanism, and I'm so grateful that it continues and that it has brought me to a community that I never even, believed I would be encountering and be part of. So I'm so grateful. And my whole journey for social justice advocacy has been electrified by Harriet Tubman's heroic flight to freedom, her faith, her connection to God, her resilience, her selfless and relentless pursuit to help others. Along the way, on my journey, I am not the same person as I was when I started. And when she crossed that line, she looked at her hands to see if she was the same person. Just becoming a poet and championing social justice advocacy through poetry has totally changed the trajectory of my life. So I write poetry in a variety of styles, and the poems in Origins and Crossroads are reflective of that. And so the number one question is, what do Harriet Tubman and I have in common? Okay, so Origins, we are both from Maryland. And when I found that out, that just sparked my interest even more. So diving deep into her history, deep into my history, and then being able to live in a place where she had footsteps here in Beaufort, South Carolina as well. So, can everybody say origins? Origins. All right, we're going to dive in. So after seeing a replica cradle that was built by Ben Ross, Harriet Tubman's father, for Harriet Tubman as a baby at the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad State Park in Church Creek, Maryland. It's a beautiful piece, and it's made from the wood of a sweet gum tree, and I wrote this poem called A Vessel for a Dreamer. And the epigraph is a quote by Harriet Tubman. The first thing I remember was lying in the cradle, Harriet Tubman, 1905. Ben Ross knew all the trees in the Maryland coastal plain. The carefully selected hardwood, a sweet gum, common on the eastern shore, hand-hewn into a rocking cradle, like the Ark of the Covenant he'd heard about in the good book. A sanctuary of comfort, a respite for slumber. Every great dream begins with a dreamer, because even enslaved infants had nightmares, leaving the arms of their mother for a lifetime destiny of chattel slavery. A vessel for a dreamer. A visit to the Brodus Farm in Dorchester County, Maryland in April of 2024 kindled this poem, Brodus Farm. River, forest, field, territory from coastal marsh to meadow, vast, flat land filled with white clover. Chuck, 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 red-winged blackbird call and response. Slavery, cruelty, control. Ancestors blackbirded for labor. Resist, run away, return. Harriet's story reigns. Brodus Farm. Okay, that was a couple from section 1, origins. So now we're coming to the second part, Crossroads, everybody. Crossroads. Thank you. So I found myself living in a place that was part of Harriet Tubman's story in Beaufort, South Carolina. And many of you know, in spring of 1862, Harriet Tubman came to South Carolina Sea Islands and spent time living in Beaufort. She served in the Union Army in many capacities as a scout, spy, a nurse, and assisted in the recruitment and enlistment of black soldiers. I hope everyone's been to Craven Street, though it's a little tore up right now, to see the Harriet Tubman Monument created by sculptor Ed Dwight, depicting scenes from the Combahee River Raid. And it is so great to be here so close after the 163rd anniversary of the Combahee River Raid. So here's a poem I wrote about the Combahee title. Can anybody guess? Combahee. Spending time at a modern-day pier, the Combahee River Raid occurred here. This gives me a shiver, where Harriet Tubman led a detachment of Union Army on steamships with her group of scouts. The mission: carry troops to destroy plantations and enslave people to freedom deliver. To freedom, the people did shout. The river and marsh are quiet today. The sun reflects my shadow as river reeds sway. Cool air chills my face. Vehicles traverse the Combahee on the Harriet Tubman Memorial Bridge at a steady pace. Do the travelers even realize the importance as they pass through this historical place? Combahee. So we're going to move on to the third section of the book, Underground Railroad. And I heard the voice of Harriet Tubman saying, "Tell them about my feet." I was taken aback, and I had to think about that, of course, for a minute or two. And I came up with this poem, which Ginger mentioned was featured on the Hilton Head Island Poetry Trail at Mitchellville from November 2024 to May 2025. Harriet's Feet, F-E-A-T, to freedom. She stepped off into darkness, running for her life, only celestial bodies giving off guiding light. 2 fleeing feet to carry her over the freedom line, mere mortal feet, the journey assigned. Ligaments, tendons, muscles, nerves, blood vessels, skin, and 52 bones. Traveling through rugged country, through sharp marsh reeds and craggy stones. Ankle-deep mud, thick like molasses, slowing her strides. Vigilant, traversing, gauging when to move and where to hide. Footprints dissolved in the silt and coarse sand, disappearing among high grass along the marshland. Stumbling off beaten paths, feet calloused and swollen, fire burning in her calves. Falling to her knees to weep and pray, God gave her the strength to keep going without delay. Crossing rivers and streams, the flight taking its toll. Cold water washing her raw and blistered soles. Danger or death with every step mounting, heart racing, mind fighting, feet pounding. Over 100 miles. In today's terms, 1 ultramarathon, just shy of 4.5 marathons Harriet's feet trod. This was her first leg led by a spirit not to be contained, making 13 trips over the course of 10 years, spiriting away over 70 enslaved. Sure-footed, she made this journey on repeat. Harriet's feet to freedom. Thank you. The next poem is inspired by the mural painted by Michael Rosato, and it graces the exterior of the Harriet Tubman Museum and Educational Center in Cambridge, Maryland. That photo is on the Origins bookmark, and they will be available at the table when you leave. And it has an epigraph, another quote by Harriet Tubman, and it is called, "Take My Hand." When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. Harriet Tubman. Hands that drove oxen, harvested lumber, rest muskrats. Hands that folded laundry, stitched quilts, braided hair. Hands that foraged roots, blended herbs, bathed wounds. Hands that carried water, prepared food, kneaded gingerbread. Hands that signaled directions, prayed fervently, gave selflessly. Take my hand. So the last section of the book is Starshine. The night before I wrote this poem, I saw a shooting star, and it is written in a style called Punsaba. Does that word sound similar to another word that we might know in our vocabulary? Punsaba. It is based on Kwanzaa. 7 lines, 7 words, 7 letters per word maximum, unless it's a proper noun. So this poem is called Starry Night. Cross the line, be free, cross the line, be free. Setting off on foot under indigo skies and heedful moon's gaze. This night, like no other, marking escape. Ladle for a guide, Polaris position fixed. Sanguinus, the swan, Aquila, the eagle, Milky Way galaxy, enfold and Intrepid, trek north. Starry Night. So I close with the words of Harriet Tubman. Always remember you have the strength and patience and the passion to reach for the stars, and change the world. Please visit whitegirladvocacy.com to learn more and connect. Hashtag whitegirlhomework, and on social at whitegirladvocacy. There are lots of videos on my YouTube channel, and I also have a pretty active blog and newsletter. So, Ginger, thank you again to you and the Pat Conroy Literary Center. Thank you to you awesome readers tonight, and I really appreciate it.